about your personal information being at risk now?
No, our personal information is being held by the government, so I'm sure it's fine.
It's going to be fine.
Plus this, it's one of the most popular books of all time, 50 Shades of Grey. It's about to become a movie, but fans are not impressed with the pick of the leading man. That guy
would see a certain insanity in some of the things that have happened during this government shutdown.
The Senate chaplain praying for Congress to end the madness. All right now on Fox News Sunday.
And hello again from Fox News in Washington. Negotiations to end the partial shutdown.
Right, and apparently people were not happy that was the choice. So
after President Obama rejected the latest House Republican plan. We'll talk with key congressional players in a moment, but first, if there's no deal, and that is looking more likely, what will a deadlock mean to the overall economy and your personal finances? Peter Barnes of Fox Business News explaining how the markets are handling the uncertainty. Peter.
Well, first, financial markets are bracing for a bumpy ride this week because of Washington's budget battles. Last week, investors cheered reports of talks about ending the government shutdown and raising the nation's debt ceiling by the deadline this Thursday. By the end of the week, stocks recovered all of the losses that followed the shutdown on October 1st. But experts remain nervous. Investment manager David Kotak said, quote, markets rose on hope for a deal, so markets are likely to fall as reality check alters sentiment. This fight is a long way from over. That's what happened in the budget showdown in 2011. The Dow fell more than 800 points before a deal was reached to avoid a shutdown and increase the debt ceiling, but it fell another 1,200 points after that. The nasty fight cost the United States its AAA credit rating for the first time in history. Still, the economy itself held up okay in hindsight. Up 3% growth by the last quarter of 2011, job creation accelerated, and stocks rebounded. The pattern was the same in the 1995-96 government shutdown. This time around, worried countries in the IMF and the World Bank in Washington for their semi-annual meetings are pushing Congress and the White House for a deal.
More than 50% of all exports are to developing countries. So this is not just that it's going to have an impact, negative impact in developing countries, it's going to have a direct negative impact on exports in the United States. And so we just urge them to continue talking and come to a solution.
U.S. bond markets are closed tomorrow for Columbus Day, but stock markets are open, so buckle your seatbelt. Chris?
Peter, thank you. We will be following how the markets react. As we said, the Senate is now at the center of budget talks, and we're joined by two leaders there trying to find a way to reopen the government and avoid a default. Democrat Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Republican Bob Corker of Tennessee. Senators, welcome back to Fox News Sunday. As we sit here on Sunday, Senator Corker, where are we? Is there a deal in the offing? Where are we?
Well, there was some movement a couple of days ago, and I think things are not moving now. A couple of nights ago, it looked like there maybe was a way to go forward. I think the Senate Democrats have pulled back at the request of the White House, and now maybe trying to look at sort of busting the budget caps that were established back in 2011. So I think we're in a status quo. I do think we will see our way through this, but the last 24 hours have not been good.
Let me follow up with you on that. As we said, the president rejected the House GOP plan. Yesterday, Senator Harry Reid, the Senate Democratic leader, rejected a compromise plan by 12 senators, half Republican, half Democrats. It sounds like the other side is demanding, Senator Corker, that you reopen the government and you extend the debt limit with no strings attached. Will Senate Republicans accept?
Well, again, are they going to try to change existing law, which is now where they are, or are they going to agree to leave the budget caps that have been long established as U.S. law? They're going to leave those in place and set a framework that allows us to deal with the big issues our nation faces, which is mandatory spending. I think.
Let me just quickly explain to folks, because what happened was, as part of the Budget Control Act in 2011, sequester levels were set, and these were automatic spending cuts, and then the budget has to go, overall budget has to go down to a certain level. The Democrats are now insisting, let's raise the sequester levels, let's relax that. One of the questions that I know some Republicans are asking is, if Obamacare was the law of the land and couldn't be tinkered with, why is it that the sequester, which is just as much the law of the land, can be tinkered with?
So I agree. I think, look, Republicans started off in a place that was an overreach, and to try to change a law that was central to the president's, agenda was not something that was achievable. A delay maybe, other kinds of things maybe. Now, I think the Democrats on the verge of being one tick too few as they see the
two-year delay on Obamacare's medical device tax.
Are overreaching. And I think that what we've got to do is get this back in the middle of the road, act like adults, deal with these issues in an appropriate way. Joe and I were at a dinner last night. We're usually in the home states with finance ministers from around the world. This is something that is wreaking havoc around the world and will affect economic growth. And I do hope that over the next week we'll reach a conclusion, and I think we will, but Chris, over the last 24 hours, there's not been good productivity on this issue.
Let me pick up with you, Senator Manchin, because you were part of this gang of 12 that tried to come up with
enough gangs up there with
with an agreement, and Democratic leaders ended up saying that this gives too much to the Republicans, which raises the question, do Harry Reid, do President Obama, do they want to compromise, or do they want surrender?
Well, I don't know what they want. They haven't detailed that enough for us. Leadership must basically, we're in a crisis mode right now. We should not be. There's no way it's acceptable for this government to be shut down. This is self-inflicted pain on millions of people. It's unnecessary. And now to go out to the brink of a government default, which is catastrophic to our country, to our economy, to the people in this great country. How they can let that happen is beyond me. We have a group of bipartisan, that's 12% of the Senate, a core equally divided, 66 Democrats, Republicans, and we've got something that has a little bit for everybody. In a divided government, you can't have it all your way.
But forgive me, your leader, Harry Reid, said it was too generous to the Republicans that and rejected it. And
well, we're waiting to see the leadership come back to something then that's maybe he believes is more fair. I don't know. We looked at it from the standpoint they wanted to repeal the medical device tax.
We got Republicans
wanted that. They compromised and gave us the delay for 2 years, which works. They wanted an oversight as far as people who were signing up for it. The bottom line was is we don't want that to gut, and it's not going to gut the bill. Give Obamacare a chance to work. If it doesn't work, it'll fall on its own. But don't have the underlying motive to just get rid of it. And the social issue, we're talking about finances of our country. A lot of those social issues, I can talk about an energy policy, coal, what role it plays in the economy of the government, and the energy that we have. But that's not the place for it. And everybody wants to bring their social agenda to the table when we really should be fixing the finances of this country. And that's what Bob and I have been working on.
Senator Corker, Majority Leader Harry Reid, late yesterday, along with other Democratic leaders, went to the White House in the Oval Office, met with the President to discuss where they stand at this point in these negotiations. He says he wants a compromise by Monday. Any idea what he has in mind? And what do you think, realistically? I know, you want to say, you hope that, what are the chances, real chances, that we could reach Thursday, the deadline, without a deal?
Well, I've been able to predict these in the past with really perfect results so far. At this point, Chris, I cannot. I do think we will rise to the occasion and deal with this issue, and I do think that I think the White House pulled back Senate leadership 2 nights ago and asked them to step back away. And I think that they're watching to see what's going to happen on the Republican side for a few hours. But nothing is going to happen, I don't think, if it's about, again, breaking those spending caps. So my sense
that's the key issue now, is whether this sequester stays today.
It would be beyond belief as a country to have the huge amounts of debt, $17 trillion and growing, And to not only not take gains, which is what all of us want to do, we want to make our country stronger, not only not do that, but back off from the disciplines that we put in place back in 2011, which, by the way, is the law of the land. So my sense is that Democrats will pull back. We'll end up in a place where we're focused on those good government things that we should have been focused on all along, and that we will move along in an appropriate, at some point, Chris, this is something that I think the administration will realize is not, it's not a game they need to be playing with, and we need to get back to, again, the constraints that we have with a few victories for both sides and move ahead.
Senator Manchin, the number 2 Democrat in the Senate, Dick Durbin, says that your side has, and to use his word on the screen, several somethings in their back pocket as a way to avoid default, even if you don't get a deal. Do you have any idea what he's talking about?
Well, I would assume that they might be referring to the so-called nuclear option. If you have to use that, basically, to keep this country from falling into default. We go to 51 votes on the Senate side to prevent that from happening. I would hope we don't get to that. I don't think we need to go that direction whatsoever, and I think we can come to agreement. The bottom line is if you want,
I don't know, that's not too good.
then get a long-term fix. Bob and I both have been looking for a long-term. We both probably agree with Audible Simpson, the template of reform and spending and revenue to a certain extent. We might have difference in what we define that.
But you can't get that done without
No, we can't get that done. We can move in that direction. If we come to an agreement, that's what we said. January 31st on the debt ceiling, March 31st on the CR. Gives us the time to work. Put the budget conference in place. The budget conference aren't even meeting. So if they want to fix it and get rid of the number, then sit down and come to an agreement and let the orderly process
I
work.
gotta throw something else into this mix, or something saying mess. Even if the White House and the Senate agree, you gotta get something then through the House. Now, when you were proposing your deal, Senator Manchin, which the Senate Democratic leadership said was too generous to Republicans, Paul Ryan, the chairman of the House Budget Committee, said it was a total cage, and that it was unacceptable, and House Republicans would never pass it because it was an aid to the president.
That comes, it might be pretty good if both of them are rejecting it. But
I know, but the point is okay, but here's the question, Senator Corker. How can you, if that was too much, how are you gonna get something through the House that is even more favorable to the Democrats?
Well, I know you've got Jim Jordan coming on a minute, Joe, and enlighten you to that end, but look,
But it's gotta be a factor in your consideration.
It is a factor. At some point, first of all, we had a lot of conversation back and forth. Joe and I were with Eric Cantor last night. You know, I think at this point, we've got to figure out a way to get something out of the Senate that we think is close enough for the House to accept. There's got to be some evolution, I think, on both sides. But right now, just to think about it, we haven't gotten anything out of either body. Getting something out of one body would at least be progress. So I agree. That's why I say it's not clear to me how this ends, because there is such disarray, and now again, Republicans overreach. Now Democrats are beginning to overreach. Hopefully, as we move into this next week and markets are reopening, hopefully both sides will get back in the middle of the road, do some things again, and pull a little rope towards making us stronger fiscally, and set the stage for something better.
That's why I asked the final question, Senator. Do you think it may take the markets tanking, reacting very negatively to get you guys off the dime?
You know what, I think that this time, more than last time, I think people more fully understand the impacts and understand that we're in a pretty fragile recovery. I hope that's not what it takes. There are a lot of folks, for what it's worth, there are a lot of folks in the Senate that really want a good, solid solution that doesn't gouge either side, and hopefully that's what's going to prevail.
Finally, Senator Manchin, since the shutdown began, we saw the Park Service shut down the World War II memorial to veterans. We see a demonstration there. There's the so-called Million Vet March today to protest that. This week, and I think everybody was horrified by this, the Pentagon said they could not pay for the death benefits of our fallen soldiers or pay for the families who are going to go over to see the remains returned until Congress ended up passing an emergency bill. I want to ask you a direct question. Do you think that this administration has used the military, has used veterans, has used other groups, has used the cuts politically to give them pain in order to put pressure on you.
Basically everything that you would
Any Democrat or any
sensitive as a U.S. citizen.
Public service is public service. We take an oath to basically serve the public and invest in
So how do you explain some of these?
Well, basically, I don't know from this, just the whole political process, but basically just the bureaucracy of what we're dealing with. I called Ken Fisher when we had that situation that we found out about. Fisher House, and basically they were the catalyst that came to the table. We've gotten that corrected now, but I want to thank Ken Fisher and Fisher House for what they have done. They were willing to step to the table and make sure no one was paid on that. But to think that someone would inflict this much pain, this is what's hard for me to believe. I didn't sign up for this type of duty. I didn't sign up for public service to put undue pain on people. And it's hard for any of us to sit here and accept that. I have faith in our leadership. I believe that they'll come together in a rational way and fix this problem. We've given some outlines. There's 12 of us working together. That's a pretty good core group to build off of. Rather than rejecting it, we look and see how they can improve. That's what we're hoping will happen today and tomorrow, and we're willing to work with.
Senator Manchin, Senator Corker, thank you both for coming in. We'll see how the next few days shake out. Thank you, gentlemen. With the Senate now at the center of talks to end the stalemate, how do House Republicans feel about being left out? Congressman Jim Jordan, one of the leaders of the so-called Tea Party faction in the House, joins us next.
A lot of major issues, things that we couldn't even post online because of the Senate.
Americans are asking, just what will our energy future look like? Well, very bright. New technologies are safely unlocking vast domestic supplies of oil and natural gas, like energy from shale. And with smart policies, we can create even more great jobs. And could generate billions to fund schools, roads, and other services. So what does all that look like? A secure energy future for generations to come.
The people we are up against have NIMS money and guns. All I've got is a website.
May have made the transactions.
What is the fifth estate?
That an agenda?
Trip. Who is the fifth estate?
It's beyond the law.
In 5 days, discover the untold story.
Corruption and conspiracy the world needs to know.
Behind the website that changed the world. We need to crush these guys. The fifth estate. Right here.
How are you so calm? Because right now they're just allegations. These are key suppliers and major violations. The SEC's cooperation. We'll need to preserve documents, emails, of course. The books and records, we put them all under a microscope, worldwide. They don't have those kind of resources. I know. That's why we're going to bring in BDO. BDO?
People who know BDO.
Hey, what are you doing today?
I'm backing up the computer, photos, work files, you name it.
Lovely.
Calls it all pure lunacy. Joins us next hour.
Did you get everything backed up?
Took care of it.
For just $59.99 a year, Carbonite backs up your irreplaceable files automatically, so you don't have to. Try it for free at Carbonite.com.
In 2048, every police officer is partnered with an advanced combat model android.
I got a recorder for another synthetic. That's one of the crazy ones. There may be some bugs. I'm not trying to do one of those things. The idea was to be as human as possible. I'm not like them. I was made to be.
America for me. It's known that
Now that the president has rejected a House Republican plan, there's a big question whether the so-called Tea Party faction in the House will accept any deal that comes out of the Senate. Here to answer that question and more is Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. Congressman, welcome back to Fox News Sunday. Well, as we said, the president has rejected the House GOP plan, and Senate Democrats have rejected an even more generous plan that was being offered by Senate Republicans. I say generous in the sense that it demanded less of the president and gave him or tilted more towards the president. So the question is, do you get the sense that the other side thinks they have you guys on the ropes and that they can force you to pay?
Well, we get the sense they don't want to negotiate. We've offered, I think, 11 different bills, either funding all or part of the government.
You do what I do?
and they haven't even debated on it in the Senate, let alone pass them. So here's the key. There are two key principles that I think that drives House Republicans. The first is you can't keep spending money you don't have. I mean, basic concept. We can't keep raising the limit on an already maxed out credit card. Second principle is this: Obamacare, the way it's being implemented, is unfair. You can't give special rates to big business. You can't give special dispensation to members of Congress, and then say to every other American, you got to go to a website that doesn't work, try to sign up for a plan you can afford, and send your information to the IRS, which is already proven they won't treat it confidentially. So this is about fairness and basic common sense that you can't keep spending more than you take in.
All right, we're going to get to Obamacare in a second. I want to talk about what the Senate Democrats are talking about, the plan that might come out of there. Senate Democrats are demanding that the debt limit be extended for a longer period of time. Not even you guys were talking about November. The gang at 12 was talking about January. They want to extend it longer, and they want to sequester spending cuts. And this seems to be the real heart of the problem now. Roll back. They're not going to have to live under the sequester spending cuts for a prolonged period of time. You shake your head. If that comes out of the Senate, will the House pass it?
Will break spending cuts? Yeah, I don't see any way that you see Republicans go for that. And frankly, this idea that we're going to have a debt ceiling where we don't address the underlying problem being we got a $17 trillion debt. We have a debt bigger than our entire annual economy. If you don't address the underlying problem, then we're doing what the cliche that always gets used in this town always gets done in this town. We're just kicking the can down the road.
Direct yes or no. You're saying, what will the House do if that's the plan that comes out of the Senate?
I don't think you're going to see House Republicans. I mean, we are best when we stay united on basic principles of less government, less spending, keeping taxes. You're going to see us stay united that we are not going to increase spending. The sequester has been one of the good things that has happened. Is that one of the few things we have done where we've actually controlled spending somewhat in this town.
Okay, but let me ask you two direct questions. If you say you're not willing to accept that, are you prepared to let this go past the deadline on Thursday when the Secretary of the Treasury says that we're going to go into default?
Chris,
I'm not asking whether you think it's a default or not. What I'm asking is, are you prepared to let this go past
No one wanted to shut down. We offered 11 different bills to fund all the parts of the government. Exactly, because we've offered 11. We have compromised and given all kinds of reasonable pieces of legislation that Harry Reid won't even debate, let alone pass. And no one wants a default. What we want to do is stick to some basic principles of addressing the underlying problem is we keep spending more money than we have. And if we continue to do that, we're going to make it difficult for our kids and our grandkids, for future generations, to enjoy this amazing thing we call America.
Sir, that's my direct question. I understand your principle. Are you prepared to refuse to make a deal and to let this go past Thursday?
That's the law you should be asking Harry Reid.
Spend more money than they have.
If I were here, I would.
Yeah, well,
I'm asking you.
And what I'm saying is we are prepared to do what needs to be done to address the underlying problems in this country.
But you won't raise the debt limit if it doesn't do it.
Well, we're not going to break the sequester cap. We think that's one thing when we save the American taxpayers some money here. We think that's important savings that we receive.
Raises the other question.
Unless you get the kind of mandatory changes, long-term changes in mandatory spending that actually put us on a path to balance and help address the underlying problem. If you can't keep raising the limit on a credit card if you're not going to address the problem long-term.
I understand that. Here's the other method. You said Republicans won't go for it. There's another way this could happen. If House Speaker Boehner puts this on the floor in the House and it passes overwhelmingly with Democratic votes, and then a few Republicans, but overwhelmingly with Democratic votes, will he be removed?
I mean, I don't think these speakers what? Over the last several weeks, you've seen our caucus very united, 230-some votes for all these bills I've talked about. I don't think you're going to see that. I don't think you'll see that happen.
If he did it, what would happen to me?
Well, I mean, who knows? I don't think that's not even being talked about. We're focused on the principles I've described. We're focused on addressing the underlying debt problem. And we're also focused, and this, I've watched the previous segment, we're also focused on Obamacare. It is unfair the way this is being implemented.
All right, let me ask you about that. There's a widespread feeling in Washington maybe right, maybe wrong, but the feeling in Washington is you're going to have to accept in the House something that you hate because, quite frankly, the perception is that you misplayed your hands on Obamacare. I want to put up a couple of polls. According to a Wall Street Journal poll this week, 53% now have a negative view of the GOP. That's the worst rating since the Wall Street Journal started polling in 1989. And support for Obamacare has actually gone up in the last month from 31% to 38%, despite all the massive problems with the rollout, and the feeling is it's because of the disgust with the shutdown. Congressman Jordan, rightly or wrongly, forget Obamacare, politically, has your strategy of linking Obamacare to all these things, has it backfired big time?
Well, look, we need to delay this law, plain and simple. You can look at the polls and whatever, but we were elected to stand for certain principles. The vast majority of the American people still know this law doesn't work. The president knows this law doesn't work. We've had 13 days where this thing has been rolled out and it's been a disaster. And I always point to this. Why is it okay, Chris, for big corporations not to be subject to the plain letter of the law? Why is it okay for members of Congress to get a special grade under the law? But for that single mom working at a small business, now she has to be subjected to trying to deal with Obama. Maybe she's now going down to 29 hours a week because of Obama. Why is that fair? This is a fundamental, this is a hallmark principle about this country. Equal treatment under the law.
I understand your argument, but the fact is when Paul Ryan had his op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal, his way out, it never mentioned Obamacare. When John Boehner offered the House Republican plan, which would extended the debt ceiling and have these budget talks, he never mentioned Obamacare. It feels like that has left the station.
There's a lot of members of the House of Representatives who understand that Obamacare is unfair the way it's been treated. And all of that, look, I want to repeal it. We know that's not going to happen with this president. All we've asked for is delay it. Delay it for individual Americans, just like you did for members of Congress. Just like
it's just, I'm not saying you're right.
That is such a simple, fair, basic argument, consistent with what makes our country such a special country, equal treatment under the law.
But doesn't it feel to you like the House Republican leadership has
and that's us making a better. We need to make a better argument. We need to make a stronger argument to American people. But I think that resonates with the American people if we continue to make them.
So. I guess what I'm a little bit confused because what you're basically saying, here we just talked to two senators who say, we're going to have to move even more in the direction. They agree with you. We're not going to relax the spending cuts. That's a non-starter. But Obamacare never came up in that discussion either. And the president is pushing them for fewer and fewer concessions, and you're demanding something that it sounds like your House
Joe Manchin said last week that he thinks the individual mandates, he thinks it should be relaxed for individuals, they should be given equal treatment. So here's a Democrat senator from the state of West Virginia who agrees that this is being enforced in an unfair fashion.
So last question, how do you think that the House Republicans or congressional Republicans are taking the hit that everybody else seems to think they've taken when you see this record level of disapproval?
No one likes to shut down, and we understand that. But I keep coming back to this idea that somehow we're the bad guys because we're standing up for the simple concept of fairness. This is why people elected us, to stand up and say, you know what, we should be treated fairly under the law. This law doesn't work. We all know we've had 13 days and it's been rolled out and it hasn't worked. And the other thing that I'm always amazed at, this president can waive the law for big business and members of Congress, but he can't waive the law during this shutdown for families whose sons gave their lives serving our country and want their death benefit for them. To me, that's unbelievable. So this is a simple argument about fairness, and we're going to keep making it.
Congressman Jordan, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure to talk with you, sir. It's going to be an interesting week. Up next, our Sunday panel weighs in on the gridlock here in Washington and where they see a path forward.
People are taking charge of their type 2 diabetes.
I'm the kind of guy who doesn't like being sold to. The last thing I want is to feel like someone is giving me a sales pitch, especially when it comes to my investments. You want a broker you can trust. A lot of guys at the other firms seem more focused on selling than their clients. That's why I stopped working at my old brokerage and became a financial consultant with Charles Schwab.
What kind of financial consultant are you looking for? Talk to us today.
Blood sugar in adults with type 2 diabetes when used with diet and exercise. Health
Healthcare reform has generated over 15,000 pages of regulations filled with increased complexity, compliance, and cost for your business. You could spend time and money to figure it out, or you can trust and spare me to handle it for you with one stroke of the pen. We are ready for healthcare reform. Are you?
Symptoms of a serious allergic reaction may include swelling face symptoms.
You look good for 2 days. Looks like he stepped off the Mayflower.
If Thomas does indeed carry it, the effects could be apocalyptic. I've been infected. On Fox.
Stop taking Victoza and call your doctor right away if you have signs of pancreatitis, such as severe pain.
See if you can survive the biggest names in horror. Win a grand prize trip to Universal Orlando. Log on to foxfornow.com.
Put on your pumps. Stop out breast cancer by running in the Stiletto Sprint. Join us October 19th in downtown Naples. Proceeds benefit Susan G. Komen of Southwest Florida and the Garden of Hope and Courage. Go to foxfornow.com for details.
No animals, no clowns, just low live market prices at Naples Mazda. Check out the all-new redesigned 2014 Mazda lineup. Get an extra $500 trade assistance at napleshazit.com.
The power of 4.
Network of 4 super radios.
From coast to coast, tracking severe storms in a 4-zone coverage.
Surrounding every storm.
That's how it's going, but the power of 4. Thanks, Southwest Florida, for voting Patrick Nolan and Emily Disco your favorite local entity.
Who is your hero in healthcare? You know them as special individuals and organizations dedicated to help, heal, and save lives. Honor your hero in healthcare by nominating them for the Naples Daily News 2014 Here's to Our Heroes in Healthcare Recognition Program. To submit a nomination and for additional information, go to naplesnews.com/heroes or call 239-213-5355. That's naplesnews.com/heroes or 213-5355.
If you have questions about your injury case or malpractice claim, the consultation is free and you owe us no fees unless we're successful. Call us today. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
No animals, no clowns, just low live market prices at Naples Mazda. Check out the all-new redesigned 2014 Mazda lineup. Get an extra $500 trade assistance at napleshazit.com.
Win a grand prize trip to Universal Orlando. Log on to foxfornow.com.
Woman who's right out of college and gets her to do.
I'd like to see the politicians get their acts together and quit punishing the citizens. This is their problem, not ours. We elected them to take care of this country, not to play games.
Military supporters gathering today at the World War II Memorial for the so-called Billion Vet March, calling on the Obama administration to reopen the nation's war memorials closed in the government shutdown. And it's time now for our Sunday Group, syndicated columnist and Fox News contributor George Will, former Democratic Senator Evan Barr, co-host of The Five, Dana Perino, and Fox News political analyst Juan Williams. Well, George, the president, as we said, rejected the House GOP plan, so the Democrats have rejected this compromise plan offered by 6 of his Democratic senators, 6 Republican senators. Do you get the sense they think they have all the leverage and they can just man the Republicans' cake?
Only reasonable explanation for the fact that they have moved the goalposts. Their iron principle, if something so malleable can be called a principle, was that they wanted a clean CR and a clean increase of the debt limit. Now they've attached something to it. They want to change the law, the Budget Control Act of 2011, to break the sequester. For years we've been told if only the Republicans would listen to the moderates like Susan Collins. So Susan Collins comes forward and says, let's delay the medical devices tax, for which there are bipartisan majorities for complete repeal of them, and let's just enforce the Affordable Care Act by having criteria for eligibility for the subsidies. Democrats say yes.
Well, there does seem to be a contradiction because, as I pointed out to the senators, this whole issue has been going because the president says Obamacare is the law of the land and you cannot change it. forgive me, but the sequester is the law of the land, which raises the question, Senator Bayh, is there rampant hypocrisy here?
Hypocrisy in Washington? I'm shocked. Well, look, of course, this is a negotiation, and people are going to press their advantage to get all they can get until the 11th hour. But both sides are going to have to give here some for the following reasons. The Republicans are losing the political war, so to save themselves in both the House and the Senate, they're going to have to compromise. And I think Susan Collins has come up with a reasonable approach. She may have to extend the time. It would actually be for the country. If we had a longer, kept the government open and raised the debt ceiling until after the next election to give us some certainty. And they may have to finagle some things and the spending caps. There's some ways you can do that that are not so terrible. But at the same time, the administration's going to have to give some because you can't default the country. Because you can't default the country.
So, well, I mean, at this point, they seem to think that, you know, they got the leverage, and is there a danger that they, as Bob Corker said, they overstep?
There is a danger with each passing day, that danger grows. I think that that's the most likely outcome here, is that the Senate eventually comes up with some sort of compromise, it goes over to the House. The House, in all likelihood, will just have to accept it, in spite of what the congressman had on before said, enough. The Democrats will all vote for it, enough Republicans will vote for it to pass it, a little bit like the fiscal cliff we faced at the end of last year. The alternative, Chris, is what you raised, and that would be a TARP situation. So the House says, just can't take what the Senate gave to us, they vote it down, the stock market plunges, and then they come back and say, well, I guess we had to. And they ultimately pass it with damage to the economy in the meantime.
I mean, Dana, just to review the bidding here, the Senate moderates, if you will, came up with a plan. Paul Ryan, who's not the most right-wing member of the House, said this was a total cave to the president and unacceptable. Harry Reid rejected it because he said that it was a cave to the Republicans and he wants something more tilted towards the president. If they come up with something like that, how can it ever get through the House? We just heard Jim Jordan.
I think it's incredible that I thought on Friday when I was going to come here on Sunday that we would be talking about, well, we see this clear path to a resolution and that by Thursday, October 17th, everything will be solved. And then as of yesterday and then this morning, we realized actually they took several steps backwards. The people who have wanted the government to live within its means and have wanted something from the Republicans out of this are going to be dissatisfied with anything that they get. They'll never be able to reach that level of satisfaction. But the markets, Chris, that actually is where you might see the House and Senate have to at least do something, because up until now the markets have pretty much shrugged off the shutdown. But any of the signals that they're picking up over the next couple of days means that the tricks that they think that they can use for the next couple of days will not be enough to prevent an actual collapse. So I think we are actually below ground zero at this point.
That's a bad place, below ground zero.
It's fast fire season.
I think we're going to have some harvest here. But I think that the smart move for the Democrats here, Chris, would be to come out as the adults in the Democratic. And I think the danger is this overreach that you heard referred to earlier, that the Democrats and President Obama have to be very careful not to put themselves in the posture of playing politics and taking advantage of the fact that they are right now winning the political war to punish the Republicans. Republicans are imploding. And what Dana said, I think, is really key. It's not just the markets, it's the business community that needs to reassert itself inside the Republican Party so that people like Susan Collins, people even like potentially John Boehner, could see that there is some political power, some money that comes for Republican moderates in this fight, and that people want him to be reasonable and not simply listen to the far right wing that right now is dominating the Republican Party and driving them over the cliff.
Flash flood watches and warnings were being posted because this system is going to continue to dump more moisture, and then we'll have yet another system across the northwest that's going to bring high mountain snow and perhaps some strong
honestly, do you think they'll be able to make it before Thursday in the deadline?
Real quick.
Second question, I have no idea, but this much I do know. I said before the Democrats have moved the goalposts by adding and breaking the sequester. That's not just moving the goalposts, that's a poison pill. If you want to bring the Republicans together, all of them, just tell them they have to break the sequester. Now the problem is the sequester, which inhibits domestic discretionary spending, is what Democrats care most about. It's not Obamacare, it's getting the spending rolling again, and Republicans will never agree to that.
Let me just, again, because this all gets a little technical, the sequester was part of the Budget Control Act, as part of the breakdown when we had the near default in 2011. It said automatic spending cuts, again, something that everybody hoped wouldn't happen, but it did happen because the super committee didn't arrive at a deal. So there are automatic spending cuts that are part of the law, and if you extend the debt ceiling under the sequester, rather the government's funding under the sequester cuts, then that just means that those cuts continue longer, and the Democrats don't like that.
The sweet spot, here it is, and a lot of it revolves around Susan Collins' proposal. The medical device tax repeal passed the Senate 79-21. It passed out of the House with about 17 or 18 Democrats voting for it too. It would be good for the economy, there's bipartisan support.
This would be, and not even a repeal of the medical device tax, it would be simply a two-year delay.
Clearly, a permanent repeal would give more certainty to the business community, that would be better, but at least it's a step in the right direction. Confirming the eligibility of people who will be getting the subsidies in Obamacare. Who can be against preventing fraud? So the Republicans will get both of those things. The Democrats would get would be a little bit longer extension, so we can have more certainty for the economy, God willing, through the next election, so businesses can invest and hire. So the Democrats would get that. With regard to the sequester, it is true that the spending levels are supposed to go down in January, but they're supposed to go back up again a year later. So you could move some of that spending from a year later forward. In the aggregate, the spending would be the same, but the Democrats would get a little bit more right now. That's going to create a lot of heartburn for the Republicans, particularly Mitch McConnell and Kentucky. But if they can finesse that, where he's facing a tough re-election. If you can fit the end between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker.
But let me ask you, we're going to go down to the time we have left. Is there a deal before Thursday or not?
It does not look like there's a deal right now. I mean, to me, why doesn't Boehner, he says that, the votes aren't there, call it up in the House, but I don't think he has that power right now, which is why I'm hoping, by the way, George, the sequester that the Democrats' budget proposed included keeping the current spending levels, including the sequester. So I don't think it's there. But I'm saying that's what the
Anyway, so yes or no?
I don't think there's a deal right now, because the timeline, the Senate would have to expedite.
You've taken your time.
I think the med device tax is very weak too. I think it only helps lobbyists. And if the argument is, I've been for that repeal, but if you are actually, we don't do yes or no on the 5.
You're not on the 5.
I know. Okay, I would say if they can't do something about Obamacare, and if you look at the front page of the New York Times today, how it was a systematic failure across the board.
By Thursday?
Not if there's nothing with Obamacare. No.
11:59 at night,
Thursday night, yes. George?
Yes.
Put her on the spot.
Created a monster here.
That was like herding cats. We have to take a break here, but when we come back, as if you didn't already know, new poll show just how disgusted voters are with everyone here in Washington.
We asked people, if you could get paid to do something you really love, what would you do?
I'd be a writer.
I'd be a baker.
I want to be a pie maker.
I want to be a pilot.
I'd be an architect.
What if I told you someone could pay you? And what if that person were you? When you think about it, isn't that what retirement should be? Paying ourselves to do what we love?
I have COPD. If you've got it, you know how hard it can be to breathe. And man, you know how that feels. COPD includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Spiriva is a once daily inhaled COPD maintenance treatment that helps open my obstructed airways for a full 24 hours. You know, Spiriva helps me breathe easier.
Spiriva Hand Inhaler Tiotropium Bromide Inhalation Powder does not replace fast-acting inhalers for sudden symptoms. Tell your doctor if you have kidney problems, glaucoma, trouble urinating, or an enlarged prostate. These may worsen with Spiriva. Discuss all medicines you take, even eye drops. Stop taking Spiriva and seek immediate medical help if your breathing suddenly worsens, your throat or you get hives, vision changes or eye pain, or problems passing urine. Other side effects include dry mouth and constipation.
Nothing can reverse COPD. Spiriva helps me breathe better.
Does breathing with COPD weigh you down? Don't wait to ask your doctor about Spiriva.
Any objective observer would see
Since the shutdown started, it's been suggested he's giving lawmakers a daily scope.
a certain insanity in some of the things
that have happened. Stay tuned. Our panel will be right back.
Into your day with CLR.
It's the show that's got everyone talking.
I didn't even know we were coming on TV.
Neither did I. That was a total surprise.
Fox Sports Live, tonight at 11 on Fox Sports 1.
People go to a mattress store.
No animals, no clowns, just low live market prices and 0% financing on new Dodges, Chryslers, Jeep, and Rams at Naples Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Get an extra $500 trade assistance at NaplesHasIt.com.
Attention mothers and fathers of children with birth defects. The antidepressant drug Zoloft has been linked to heart, brain, and spine damage, and many other horrible birth defects in newborns.
I'm Attorney Bob Goldwater. If this has happened to you or a loved one, call us right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation.
If you took Zoloft while you were pregnant and your child was born with a birth defect,
Call 1-800-323-4422. That's 1-800-323-4422. No animals, no clowns, just low live market prices and 0% financing on new Dodges, Chryslers, Jeep, and Rams at Naples Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Get an extra $500 trade assistance at NaplesHasIt.com.
The recent increase in cafeteria
This is
prices is not cool.
a situation where they do not know what they want. I hope the Republicans decide what they want.
Let's put this hysterical talk of default behind us and instead start talking about finding solutions to the problem.
Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid and Minority Leader Mitch McConnell earlier in the week engaged in some of the rhetoric that House Americans just fed off with Washington, and we're back now with the pen. So let's look at some numbers, interesting numbers in the latest Wall Street Journal poll. Just 14% of Americans, 14% think the country is headed in the right direction. That's a drop of 16 points from last month, and matches the low point where we stood during the 2008 financial collapse. And 16% of Americans say they would like to replace every member of Congress, including their own. George, are we at a tipping point here where folks just say the heck with all of them?
Well, they say it, but do they mean it? The fact is, we've been through this before. The country's suffering apocalypse fatigue at this point. They've been told from in the 70s we're going to die of global cooling, now it's global warming. LR was going to kill us at the 80s. We've heard this over and over again. And I think people are now saying, back off, stand down. And they may be answering these polls tactically. They may be saying, let's send a message to us. Michael Barone, Fox News contributor, knows more about American politics than is reasonable to know, says Americans often do that. They use the poll to send a message, and the message they're sending is pox on both your houses. But at the end of the day, when the dust settles and the smoke clears, we're going to have two parties, and we're going to get used to them again.
Well, I want to pick up on that with you, Senator. By you're involved with the No Labels nonpartisan group, how deep do you sense that the frustration with Washington is?
Inflicted a chilling effect,
or another force in American politics, perhaps a third party?
The frustration is as deep as I've ever seen it, Chris, and the poll numbers clearly reflect that. It almost makes you long for the days of the do-nothing Congress. The current Congress is actually taking steps that harm the economy. So I think what we're likely to have is a period of increased instability, more anti-incumbent elections. It won't be felt in the House so much because of the gerrymander. So many of those districts are locked in. But you'll see it more at the Senate level, which is not subject to the gerrymander. Will it go so far as to have a third party? If you look at history, that's kind of unlikely, but the polls show that most voters are with that now. What I hope is more likely is that frustrated moderates and independents who sit on the side in primaries, where really a lot of this dysfunction takes place. The radicals on both sides are the only ones that vote in the primaries. And the members are now responding to that, and they won't compromise because it's viewed as an act of betrayal. If you get more moderates, more independents participating in primaries, then you'll get a more functional government. I hope that's what will happen.
Dana, Barack Obama, whether rightly or wrongly, fairly or unfairly, was elected, I think in some measure, he certainly ran on the idea that he was going to end the hyper-partisanship of the Bush era. And I don't think there's any question, it's only gotten worse. What's the answer? How does this end?
The soundbite that you played earlier to enter into this panel segment with Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell, that's actually very tame compared to the other language that's been thrown about from the administration and also from both sides of Capitol Hill.
Anarchists, terrorists.
Suicide bombers, things like that. And once you
Some of
get
that from Republicans, but other Republicans.
Oh, yes, and that's what I was going to say. It might be a throw the bums out election, but actually it could be that some of the Republicans find that they'll have challenges in their districts. I try to take a long view of this. We do not have a very warm and charismatic speaker and a leader. I don't mean Speaker Boehner, I just mean in general in the Republican Party, like Reagan was for the Republicans or Clinton was for the Democrats. Maybe one will emerge, but in the meantime, I think that evolution that the Republican Party is going through is just going to be somewhat tough to watch. But if you look at the last week and you're on the far right, you think, at least it was worth it because we've shaken up the status quo. And in many ways, that's what the goal was.
I don't think shaking up the status quo is the goal here. I think the problem is that you get people into office who say, when I'm talking to them, they say, I was elected, I was sent to Washington to fight Obamacare, I was sent to Washington to shake up the status quo. And I think you were sent to Washington, governor, to represent the interest of the American people, not some small sector. And right now in the Republican Party, the base of the party is in the South, overwhelmingly white, and very, very, very conservative. And all they do is make small bubble, including a media bubble, and talk to each other. And they are confirmed. Then you get heritage, and you get freedom work, and all this. I'm telling you, it just is not healthy. It's not very healthy. No, to some extent it is, but at the moment, as you witness what's going on, there are people inside the Democratic Party who say we need a deal, we need to get something done, and we don't see that right now coming from the heart and soul of the Republican Party.
Well, Democrats and liberals live in the biggest mainstream media bubble ever created in the history of the universe. And so if you look at Republicans across many of the states, governors or state legislatures, Republicans are actually doing really good work, but just nationally they've taken a hit on their reputation.
George, I've lived in Washington a long time.
Obama's helping hand hurting the average American. Real people failed by the president's policies.
These just
the great food stamp bid.
Let me tell you a story about two typical American couples. There's John and Joan who could use some financial help, but they're worried and have some misconceptions about reverse mortgages. Like they might not qualify if they have an existing mortgage, and that it could mean giving up their home. They fix Andy and Greg. They're just like John and Joan, but they call them AG, and learned that a reverse mortgage was government insured, tax-free, and that they'd always retain complete ownership of their home. They also learned that most people use a reverse mortgage to eliminate their existing monthly mortgage payments, and that AAG is America's trusted reverse mortgage lender with a 93% customer satisfaction rate. So George Sandy
In 9 months, what is immigration could happen? Gun control.
8341 now. Receive a new free information kit, including a reverse mortgage guide and DVD, personal stories from people like you, and a brand new
unified primary where all the Democrats and Republicans run together. We got to watch that and see what that leads to. It could lead to more moderates on both sides.
Welcome to First National Bank of the
Problem
Gulf Coast.
gerrymander.
Here at our
That's
Kingside
their
office,
Senate
we're
vote.
your high-tech branch of the future. Get up-to-date
Right,
information
to
about our
come in with
services
force,
and more on our interactive
political
touch
orthodoxy.
screens.
Happened to Dick
Take advantage
Hoover in
of
Indiana,
some
$6
of our
million
high-tech
came in,
tablets to
only
access your
18% of the
financial
against him,
transactions
18%
There's
of
also a
the
comfortable
voted
lounge area to get acquainted with our
can't deal with
state-of-the-art
money
technology.
to
At our
or
Creekside location, we can handle all of your banking needs.
First National Bank of the Gulf Coast. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
And we only have 30 seconds left.
Anyone on the...
Underwater Fish Light adds a beautiful glow-to-your-water line while attracting fish for both viewing and sporting pleasure. You will be amazed by the amount of life in the waterways behind your home. And if you don't...
Thank you. Next week, and remember our discussion continues every Sunday on Panel.
Exploring from your boat. See for yourself what lies just below the surface with Underwater Fish Light. Fish guaranteed.
Up next, our for the week, praying for the U.S. Senate.
2 weeks away, and if you're looking to save a little cash this year in your trick-or-treater and do it yourself,
I remember loud noise, and then everything went black. I was set on fire. I couldn't breathe. I saw the fireball.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody was panicking. I had never been so afraid in my life.
Items that are on sale that these parents can use.
Everything changed after that.
So first up, we have Henry.
I'm very sad.
I want to tell you about true American heroes and how you can show your thanks by helping them through Wounded Warrior Project.
This will keep him warm.
The person who went direct is by far not the same person that came back.
I was very isolated.
Thanks, Henry.
You look adorable. And that was a big hit this year.
Your gift today of $19 a month must provide the programs and services desperately needed by our wounded service members.
When a person is scared,
She had some trouble
we
walking to
work
begin with.
has
Kind of a
been
cute
there to
little
help
play.
them. The wounded warriors that are out there need help.
How did you get
They're going to be around for years to come.
If you can see at the top of the
Call online with a pledge of $19 a month and you'll receive this Wounded Warrior blanket.
It's really some basics and
It's great to know there's an organization out there and he wants help.
The job of helping thousands of our wounded warriors rebuild their lives is massive. That's why your gift of $19 a month is so important. Please, call or go online right now.
She doesn't understand.
As we've discussed, most Americans are sick and tired of stalemate here in Washington. But one man has the perfect platform to deliver that message directly to some of our leaders. Here's our power play.
We have Superman!
We're on a very reckless course,
You can get this
and it's time to abandon it.
has one as well.
Barry Black is chaplain who opens session with a prayer. Since the shutdown started, it's been suggested he's giving lawmakers a daily scolding.
Deliver us from the hypocrisy, that stubborn pride, the collateral damage of this government shutdown.
Print from London. Is that what you say?
Yes, I think any objective observer would see a certain insanity in some of the things during this government shutdown.
His prayers have attracted such attention on Capitol Hill. The House, which has its own chaplain, invited him to give the invocation there one day. He thinks his message is getting through.
I've had senators who told me that I'm thinking differently about the way I'm voting because of something you said.
So then why is the shutdown continuing?
Well, you don't make a U-turn in an aircraft carrier, very, very quickly.
We first met Chaplain Black 2 years ago, just after another near default. He runs 4 Bible study groups, which have been canceled during the government shutdown, and acts as pastor, the senators, staff, and their families. 7,000 people.
The Apostle Paul in Philippians chapter 4 said, saints in Caesar's household.
Up in a Baltimore housing project. His mother earned $6 a day as a maid. She gave her scripture they could recite, until Barry Black was ready to recite the entire book of Genesis from memory. But what her reaction was, he spent 27 years in the service, chief of Navy chaplains, before coming to the Senate in 2003. Now his destiny is to help our leaders step the frame, stop playing what he calls a dangerous game. In a spiritual sense, what will it take for our leaders to have their
It's going to take humility.
Last year, Curio started a
There's a proverb that says, pride goes before destruction, and the Holy Spirit before a fall. So, making a commitment to being stewards, to being servants, and that's going to involve humility.
Introducing the all-new Curio 7S. Concerned about what your child is doing on the internet?
Humility in the Senate.
Built-in parental
Good luck.
controls are now even more advanced and easier to use.
Controlled the Senate, but he has stayed on with class in charge. In these days of gridlock, he's apparently one of the few things the Senate can agree on. And that's it for today. Have a great week. And we'll see you next Fox News.
Curio 7S also comes with more than double the preload limits, including a 10th section featuring all your favorite characters. This car's too. Where's my water? Avengers. Plus, the Curio features a completely system from
Fox News Sunday is a presentation of Fox News.
Attention mothers and fathers of children with birth defects. The antidepressant has been linked to heart, brain, and spine damage.
The other horrible birth defects in newborns.
I'm Attorney Bob Goldwater. If this has happened to you or a loved one, call us now. You may be into the